Hiya, good morning, it's Amanda. I'm here just to tell you a quick bit about home educating Joshua and what we're up to now. It's the start of a new, well, technically it would be school year, September. I know some people choose to unschool altogether and to not stick to sort of term times and things, but because I've got 5 children and the other 4 are in school, we're choosing to do term time. Although with that, I'm not pushing to do 6 hours a day. We're not structured so much like that, but we do sort of say, right, today we're going to look at. But that does change, and it depends on what we're doing, and we do a lot of incidental learning as well. But yeah, so we've started off, and we're doing all right. Sometimes Joshua gets to have a bit of a lay-in while I take the others to school, because if his dad's at home and things like that. So we is not as tired, and then when he is ready to learn, he is ready to learn. So that's some of the benefits. We've already noticed Joshua's a lot calmer because he's ASD, and a lot of his problems were to do with a sensory overload and anxieties during a school day. So it was nothing to do with education. It was to do with the actual environment and the busyness of people talking, getting around, being in an uncomfortable uniform, and also demands, because it is a bit demand avoidance. So if someone wants him to do something right now, that's the issue. From homeschooling him, I have noticed how he does need to stim when he's working to think. He does like to move about, and he likes to have music on, and he likes to tap his pen. And these are all the things that he would get sent out of class for. And they're the reasons that he was always in detention and missing out on his education. Whereas at home, it doesn't bother me. As long as he's listening, as long as he's working, he can stand on the ceiling. I don't care. So when we was doing Much Ado About Nothing, Shakespeare, he was laid on the sofa, he was standing up, because it was quite stressful to listen to and to figure out, but we got there and he understood what we was doing. So I'm just going to quickly show you a few things that how I do it. I know a lot of people have got some amazing organisation going on, but we are new to this. So I basically picked up from Home Bargains one of these weekly planners, and what I do as the week runs, I just write down what subjects we're doing, what sort of areas they are. But I don't write down beforehand as in this is what we're going to do. I write it down as in this is what we have done, so I know what we're doing, and then I'll make footnotes as to whether we need to do something more on that subject, if I need to find out more, and see how we go like that. So we had quite a varied week last week. So we did maths, looked at fractions, we did some English spag, we did some project work. So what I've done with Josh to get him engaged is we've decided to pick a project. So this project's a bit like what would be design technology mixed in with engineering and other things like that. So he wants to make a battle bot, so a robot that fights with other robots. So in that is loads of different subjects. So we've got science. So because of that, with science, I've chose to do about electricity. So we can learn about circuits because it's something he's going to have to program. We're moving on to magnets and forces. So it'll just run for everything that is appropriate for that battle bot. But it's structured at the same time. So the work isn't all about the battle bot. So when he's doing about science and circuits, he's actually doing the work on circuits and having to do the workbook work. And then he's going off and doing the other bits himself. So he's finding out about materials, what he needs, what to buy, and all the rest of it. So that'll last for quite a few, I think probably last about a full term before we get on to fully making it and things like that. We've done other stuff, like we've done a bit of geography, geography and stuff like that. So he's not always doing stuff that he enjoys. I am making him do the stuff that is necessity for what he wants to do as a profession. The way I work is I have files, and in each of these files for the subjects I've got the relevant books. Now so far we're using the CGP books, but this is because I knew this is what the school he was at was working from, and my daughter thinks they're quite good as well. So she's doing GCSE work, so any books that she's got can also help me as well. And then it's important to buy, if you're not sure about certain questions, the workbook. So the workbook literally is all your question sheets that you would normally be given and photocopied at school. So that's just the thing. So if I go to what we've been doing, which is, let me find it. should be on the pink tab, I think. So we've been doing electrical circuits. So I know we're back to front because I've got you on reverse, but you can probably just get the gist that all the questions are there. And then what I do, rather than marking the book, is I photocopy with my printer the sheets, and then we work from those. So after we've done the work and gone through actually the study part of it using this book, which explains everything, then I will set him some work from the actual sheet. So he takes notes as we discuss it and go through it, and then he'll work from the workbook. And so far it's been okay. He's been engaged, he understands what he's doing. Also for science, which I'm quite pleased at, arrived yesterday. I purchased from Amazon this chemistry lab set. So it's called Science Mad Chemistry, and it has over 100 experiments for chemistry, and all the instructions and everything you need are inside, and it also gives you a list of other things that you'll need to purchase. But upon going through this with Joshua and my other older girls, it is everything they will be doing Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4 in chemistry anyway, so you're just recreating your lab work at home. So he's not going to miss out on the practical, because that's the question I've had a lot. Oh, what about the practical stuff that he's going to miss out on? Well, there's no reason you can't do it at home. The resources are there. Plus, there's a multitude of other resources available online. A friend of mine directed me to the Dyson. I forgot the website at the top of my head. I'll probably try and pop it on the bottom. But basically, Dyson STEM engineers have given some STEM experiments and things you can do at home with household things. So there's loads to choose from on there. So we'll be accessing that, which also ties into other things. So you can do, there's one for making an underwater volcano. We've just been doing tectonic plates and volcanoes and geography and recapping. So we'll probably pop that in next week or something. But yeah, there's a multitude of things available once you start looking, and there's no reason that your children can't have a similar education for people who want to bridge that gap between completely not doing anything to actually trying to stay on track. Joshua does want to see his GCSEs. He does want to know what he wants to do for a career. He wants to be a games tester, which maths and English are so important. I think a lot of people think that's just playing games. Well, it's not. You've got to be able to be really good with your maths and English. So it is really, really vital that he keeps those skills up. So best of my abilities, we're trying. And then obviously I've got lots of files. So for English, I mean, if you go on World of Books, you can buy lots of used resources as well as new. So this one, you can see it's tatty, it's used, but it doesn't matter. It's the full script with footnotes for Much Ado About Nothing, because I know this one is going to be on exams, and it's laid out brilliantly. So it's got the text, and then it's got the notes which convert it into basically tell you the gist of what's going on. And then for kids as well, there's the cartoon strip of the whole story. So it just makes it a bit anecdotal and puts it as plain as can be. So Shakespeare, obviously you've got to do several plays that are going to be on the English exams. So World of Books, used copies, a couple of quid rather than paying £7-8, and that goes for the other bits and bobs as well. So we've got the English Key Stage 3 workbook. Again, lots of questions. It goes through all your different sections with work to do. So I don't have to create that kind of lesson. All I've got to do is explain what subject is, and then set him off on the work, and then we go through it together. I bought these books from Asda for all his subjects, and then the perfect size. So what I do is copy the resource, and then he writes down the answers, or he can write on the pages. So because Josh hates writing, because he's got hypermobility, a common thing with autism, by photocopying the pages for him, where it would say rewrite, I don't always expect him to do massive heavy bodies of text. I save that for where it's really important. If it's not important writing work, where he's just got to rewrite and fill in a word, I'll let him just fill in that word, which takes away a lot of the anxiety and stress around writing. But as we progress, then I'll expect him to do a lot more written work. But there's a lot in the other subjects too, and this is what was causing him stress and anxiety before. Also, you can pick up the SPAG books. These are great. So it's got all your things you need to do with SPAG. So let's have a look. What's it say? So you've got all your work about plurals, suffixes. It just goes all the way through and to phrases and clauses. So it's got all of that work. And then if you go to the very back, if you're very unsure, it's got the answers as to what you're expecting the answers to be. So as a parent, if you feel a little bit out your depth, the answers are there. So sometimes, if you're not quite sure, you can go back, look at the answers, and then you can teach it backwards, in a sense. The study guide, it's great. It's a little bit brief, but you can fill in the gaps. Other resources online for English are things like TES, Teach It, Bite Size. There's just loads available. And then I've got another English literacy book which has got your SPAG and everything else in. So I just pull pages and try and work in a rhythm with structure and things of what we're doing. So maybe one English lesson we'll do a bit of SPAG, and then later on in the day I might get him to do some Shakespeare or something. So we break it up a bit. So I've had some other printable resources which are like test questions where you've got to read a passage and answer the questions on it. So every once in a while I'll throw in one of those just so we can see how he's working. But so far I've been really pleased with his willingness to work, and actually found it a lot easier than I thought. I was a bit like, oh, what am I going to do? Although I'm running out of file space because I've got that much there. And so for history and geography, I'm not too fussed on doing too much massive work. I want to focus on the core subjects, but these ones are really good, the Collins revision guides, because it literally goes through all your subjects. You have the revision area, it says revise, then you have the practice questions, and then following that, at the end you have like a summary and a bigger lot of questions. So you've got your review questions. So it gives you pointers. Really sorry about that. The camera cut off, so I'll probably make this into part 1 and part 2 maybe. Basically, this is how we're doing it. So what are my expectations? My expectations are that we can get Josh through Key Stage 3. He can learn a lot about himself and learn some life skills. So we've been doing the shopping, it's been really helpful. We do cooking together, so he's learning how to survive on his own should he need to. You've got to remember, especially with children with things like ASD, that one day you're not going to be there, and they're going to have to learn how to cope, how to use money, how to cook the food, how to work to a budget. So these are functional skills that is not going, wouldn't have got at mainstream school necessarily. He probably would have done it if he'd been at a specialist school, but he didn't have an EHCP, that's why he's not at a specialist school. And also they didn't cover the subjects that he needs to do, so it's the other end of the spectrum. So we've got an allotment, so he's going to be coming down the allotment. It's not something he enjoys. I'll not say he enjoys it because he doesn't, but he enjoys picking the fruit and eating that, but it's also teaching him that you can live off the land. So even though he's not overly interested now, it doesn't mean to say that when he becomes a young adult that he wouldn't be interested. I wasn't interested when I was younger, but I am now. So it might be something that ignites him, but it'll also give him some other skills. So should he not get what he needs, should he not be able to go into the area of working life that he wants to, he's going to have all these other skills that are going to be available to him. He's meeting people of all ages down at the allotments. He's meeting older people, he's meeting people my age, he's meeting younger children. You find a variety of people, and the common goal is to grow your own fruit and vegetables. So we also talk about that. It ties in with science, it ties in with economy, and we have quite a lot of incidental learning chats. So when we're going out and about, he'll ask a question and I do my best to answer it, and then we can get onto anything from politics to conservation. So there's a lot sort of going on that way. But so far, in general, where we would have had arguments and fights coming in after the school run, is quite mellow, is more chilled out, he's having a laugh. So I think even though it's only been 2 weeks since the others went back to school, I can already see a change, and it's a positive change, because it was getting a nightmare. He was really anxious, he was really depressed, he was a mess, and he was taking it out on everybody, and he was aggressive. So in terms of positivity, definitely, it's definitely been the right thing to do so far. I just wish I'd known about home education years ago when they was all little, because we could have had a whale of a time. I'm not going to pull the big guns out because Charlotte's about to do a GCSE. She's all happy, well, she's not happy, but she's sort of set up with that, and Olivia seems content and won't want to be homeschooled. So all in all, they're doing okay. If anything changes, then I know that it's an option now, and I'm confident that I can deliver an appropriate education to my child. So far that's where we're at. I'll probably do a video in a few weeks' time, or if we're doing something exciting like an experiment or something. But yeah, anyone who's doing Key Stage 3 up to Key Stage 4 and is interested in chemistry and doing practical things, this set's really quite good. It's got some really good things in it. So Josh is really eager to grow a crystal. So that's what we're going to be looking at maybe next week. So I'll build a lesson plan around that. But all in all, home education now, there's so much available. If you've got any doubts and you think, well, I don't want to send my child to school, the options are there not to, as long as you're delivering some kind of appropriate education. And what we can do in 2 hours is what they would probably achieve in 6 hours at school, which means he has so much more free time to himself. So I'll pop some links on below for anyone who wants to find out about the Dyson website and the challenges on there, and also the World of Books, where I get a lot of my books from. But for now, I hope you found it useful. Any questions or any advice, pop in the comments below, and I hope to progress on this journey and take you all with me. All right then, thank you very much. Catch you all later.